If nothing excites you anymore, it doesn't mean you're broken. It means something in you has finished. At some point in life, many people pass through a quiet, unsettling shift they never expected. The world does not collapse, nothing dramatic happens, and yet something fundamental changes. The things that once lit them up from the inside begin to lose their flavor. Music that once stirred the heart becomes background noise. Food that once felt comforting becomes fuel. Conversations feel polite but hollow. Even the activities that once felt sacred, walking alone, reading late into the night, creating something meaningful, begin to feel strangely empty, as if the color has been drained from them. When this happens, fear naturally follows. The mind searches for explanations. Something must be broken. Something must be wrong. People tell themselves they have become depressed, that they are ill, that their brain chemistry has failed them. Others conclude they have simply grown cold, cynical, worn down by life. They carry a quiet panic inside them, convinced they have lost something essential, something that will never return. But this loss is not necessarily a malfunction. It is not always a sign of decay. In many cases, it is a sign of transition. What disappears in these moments is not life itself, but a particular way of experiencing life. The familiar forms of joy fade because they have finished their work. They were never meant to last forever. They were built on contrast, on desire and relief, on lack and fulfillment. Hunger made food pleasurable. Loneliness made attention feel warm. Boredom made stimulation exciting. Remove the lack, and the pleasure collapses. Most of what is called happiness in ordinary life is not a deep contentment at all. It is relief, the easing of discomfort, the momentary quiet that follows the fulfillment of a want. Life becomes an endless loop of tension and release, craving and satisfaction, discomfort and escape. And people chase these cycles relentlessly, mistaking the pause between discomforts for joy. Eventually, some people begin to see through this pattern. Not intellectually but directly. The excitement no longer convinces them. The pleasures no longer deliver what they once promised. The mind recognizes that it has been creating problems simply to enjoy solving them, generating hunger to enjoy eating, stirring restlessness to enjoy relief. Once this is seen, the spell breaks. When the spell breaks, the old pleasures stop working. Distraction loses its power, stimulation falls flat. The constant escape from the present moment no longer provides refuge. This feels terrifying. It feels like a kind of death. The familiar identity built around desire, excitement, and pursuit begins to dissolve. Life continues, but without its former drama, without its former highs, without its former distractions. This is not an ending. It is a gap. It is the space between an old mode of living and a new one that has not yet taken shape. The old structures collapse before the new vision arrives, and standing in this gap feels unbearable because there is nothing to cling to, no excitement to chase, no familiar comfort to lean on. It is like stepping out of a candlelit room into full daylight. In the dim glow, shadows danced across the walls, creating endless fascination. Patterns appeared meaningful. Movement felt alive, then the door opened and bright light poured in. At first, everything seemed washed out. The shadows vanished. The room felt empty and exposed. Only later does clarity emerge. Only later does it become clear that nothing was lost, only illusion. The same thing happens here. The shadow play of pleasure fades before the eyes adjust to a deeper form of seeing. Most people respond to this state by trying to force joy back into existence. They seek new experiences, stronger sensations, louder noise, greater stimulation. They chase intensity as if it were life itself. But intensity cannot restore what has been outgrown. More stimulation only deepens exhaustion. What is needed now is not addition, but subtraction, stillness, simplicity, presence. When the pursuit stops, something unexpected reveals itself. Beneath the craving, beneath the agitation, beneath the endless search for stimulation, there is a quiet sense of sufficiency, a subtle but unshakable feeling that existence does not need to be improved in order to be acceptable. Not pleasure, not excitement, not happiness in the old sense. Something steadier, something calmer. It feels like rest after a lifetime of tension. At first, this state seems dull. It lacks drama, it lacks peaks, it lacks the emotional fireworks people associate with being alive. But drama is exhausting. Constant excitement is unsustainable. The endless pursuit of highs leads only to deeper lows. This cycle is addiction, not fulfillment. What fades during this transition is not joy but agitation. And agitation has been mistaken for aliveness for a very long time. The emptiness that appears is not emptiness at all. It is the absence of noise. It is the settling of the mind after years of restlessness. At first, silence feels unbearable. Then it becomes spacious. Then it becomes home. There was once a man who lived entirely in motion, always chasing, always doing, always accumulating experiences. He believed intensity was proof of living fully. Then one day, the hunger vanished. The pursuits lost their shine. And what felt like a collapse was actually a return to something quieter, deeper, and infinitely more stable than excitement had ever been. This is not a loss of life. It is life finally unburdened. And what replaces the old joy is not a thrill, but a peace that does not need contrast to exist. A sense of being at ease with reality as it is. A recognition that nothing essential was ever missing. The search ends not because it failed, but because it is no longer needed. He believed his life had ended, that he had simply become old, worn down, and empty. He assumed the loss of enthusiasm meant decline. Yet after remaining in that quiet state for some time, something subtle shifted. One day, while sitting in his garden, doing nothing in particular, simply resting in the moment, he noticed a surprising truth. He was content, not stimulated, not entertained, just quietly, deeply content, fully present. In that stillness, understanding arrived without effort. All the rushing he had done throughout his life had been a form of escape. He had been running from the simplicity of being here, from this breath, from this moment. To avoid that simplicity, he had filled his days with activity, stimulation, ambition, and motion. And now that all of it had fallen away, he found what he had been avoiding all along. Just this, just being alive. And it was enough, more than enough. It contained everything, even though it lacked excitement or drama. His mind had once dismissed this simplicity as emptiness, as boredom, as death. Only when he stopped demanding that life be thrilling did he discover that life is extraordinary precisely because it is ordinary. This is the direction being indicated here. When nothing brings joy in the old way, a different quality of experience is becoming available. Not the oscillation between pleasure and pain, but something quieter, steadier, and more fundamental. This discovery cannot be forced. It cannot be manufactured. Any attempt to make it happen pushes it further away. It unfolds only when effort dissolves. Surrender becomes necessary. Surrender to not knowing. Surrender to flatness. Surrender to the apparent emptiness. This surrender is difficult because emptiness has been misunderstood for a very long time. It has been confused with meaninglessness, with absence, with death. In truth, emptiness is space. It is potential. It is the openness required for something new to emerge. As long as life is crowded with seeking, striving, and clinging to old joys, there is no room for anything else. Emptiness is not a flaw. It is a condition of receptivity. Like a bowl that must be empty before it can receive, this state clears what no longer fits, not to be filled again with the old patterns, but with something unnamed and unfamiliar. This may not be what was hoped for. The wish was for a return to former joy, to familiar excitement, to emotional intensity. But this experience is not a problem awaiting a solution. It is a passage to be endured. Like a caterpillar dissolving within a cocoon, the previous form cannot be restored. The new form has not yet appeared. What remains is formlessness. This formlessness feels frightening. It feels wrong. It feels like failure, yet it is the process itself. Nothing has gone wrong. This is the transformation. The instruction is simple, though not easy. Stay with it. Do not escape it. Do not fabricate joy to cover the emptiness. Do not distract, numb, or dramatize the experience. Allow the flatness. Allow the colorlessness. Allow the sense of meaninglessness to exist exactly as it is. Over time, not according to personal preference or control, but in its own rhythm, something begins to change. Not backward into old pleasures, but forward into a new mode of experiencing life. A way of being that does not depend on contrast, stimulation, or excitement. A way that finds sufficiency in the bare fact of existence. This is what mystics across traditions have always pointed toward. Not constant bliss, not permanent ecstasy, not another peak to chase, but a deep, stable okayness that remains through comfort and discomfort alike. a recognition that existence itself is complete. The former joys were like attempting to improve a sunset by adding more color. The new recognition sees that the sunset is already whole. Nothing needs to be added or removed. It is complete in itself, and so is this moment, and so is this life, even in the absence of joy. This recognition cannot be achieved. Any effort to reach it reinforces the illusion that something is missing. Completion is recognized only when striving ends, when effort collapses, when surrender is total. Even then, it may arrive quietly. It may be so subtle that it is barely noticed at first. It carries no fireworks, no announcement, no dramatic shift. It feels more like returning home, like releasing tension that had been held for years, like exhaling after holding the breath too long. During this period, life continues. Teeth are brushed, meals are eaten, daily responsibilities are carried out. These actions are no longer performed in search of happiness, but simply because they are what needs to be done. Not with bitterness, not with resignation. With neutrality, with acceptance, observation becomes important. The state itself is watched without judgment or resistance, not analyzed or diagnosed, but noticed gently, like watching clouds move across the sky. There is no need for them to change. They are allowed to be exactly what they are. Comparison fades. The habit of measuring the present against the past loosens. The comparison with others diminishes. The imagined future loses its authority. Attention rests here, in what is. This is not giving up. It is the opposite. It is meeting life directly, without filters, expectations, or demands. And paradoxically, this openness is what allows real change to occur. The insistence that life return to an earlier form is what blocks the emergence of something new. Perhaps the loss of joy signals growth rather than decline. Perhaps old pleasures no longer fit because consciousness has expanded beyond them. Not because of superiority, but because development has occurred. Different stages of life are satisfied by different things. Simplicity delights childhood. Passion energizes youth. Achievement motivates maturity. For some, even these are eventually seen through. Their impermanence becomes clear. Their limitations are revealed. What remains is existence itself. Bare being, awareness, presence. At first glance, this appears empty compared to stimulation and success. In truth, it is the foundation beneath all experience. It is what existed before seeking began. It is what remains when seeking ends. This simplicity is not nothing. It is fullness. It is wholeness. It is so ordinary that the mind overlooks it, always chasing something louder, brighter, more dramatic. What is being revealed is that nothing is more extraordinary than this moment, this breath, this simple fact of being alive. Not because it feels good, not because it excites, but because it is real, and what is real is enough. So when joy disappears, despair is unnecessary. The capacity for feeling has not been lost. The addiction to a particular kind of feeling has dissolved. In that dissolution, an opening appears, a doorway into a deeper way of being human. That doorway is not crossed through effort. It is discovered by standing still, by noticing that there is nowhere else to go. The search ends not in loss, but in freedom. And that is the greatest gift of all.